Welcome to Dog Politics Podcast. I'm Anna, your host, and this is our special guest, Teena Keevil. Teena, take it away.
Well, thank you, Ileana, for having me on Dog Politics. It's very exciting. I'm just happy to be here and talk about dogs. I love dogs too. I've always loved dogs. That's one thing that I grew up with the dog and then had greyhounds after. But just to give you a little bit about myself, I am older than you. So we'll just leave it at that. Just a tad older than you, not a lot. I actually started off, I'm originally from Canada. And so I'm down here, but love Texas. Actually, I've spent more time in the United States than in Canada. So that's pretty crazy. But most of my time down in the United States, I was actually in the United States Air Force. And I did 20 years as an active duty Air Force member. And I retired 12 years ago now. So I'm not aging myself at all. Had a great career, got to go a lot of different places. Different countries. I was in South Korea, I was in Italy, and then multiple bases in the United States. So it was a great career. I enjoyed it sometimes, most of the time. There were hard parts like everything else, but overall it was a great career. When I retired, I finished up my career in Louisiana, and then I ended up in Texas. And I love Texas, love being in Denison. It's a great location. And so after I retired, I did some odd jobs, we'll just say. Couldn't quite find my niche of where I really wanted to be until a few years ago when I started my own business, Faithful Administration Solutions, and working online as a virtual administrative assistant for different business owners across the United States. So all four of my clients are actually in different states. So it's just crazy how that all works out, So it's good, but it was actually in the military when I went to PetSmart one day. And let me tell you, don't go to PetSmart and run into a greyhound because you're going to lose your heart forever. I was in PetSmart looking around for cat stuff. All of a sudden I saw this greyhound. I was like, I didn't even know what breed it was. I just saw the man with this dog. I was like, what kind of dog is that? And he was like, it's a greyhound. I was like, can I pet him? Or her? I can't remember if it was a boy or girl. And he's like, yeah, sure. And I knelt down to pet this beautiful greyhound, and it leaned on me. I did not know it was going to do that. He did not forewarn me. And when a greyhound leans, they use all their weight. I almost got knocked over. I knew at that moment that I wanted a greyhound. But being in the military and deploying and moving a lot and going to different stations and stuff like that, it just wasn't a good fit. It would have been too hard. So when I was close to retirement, I actually started doing the research on finding a greyhound. So they stole my heart, oh goodness, 20 plus years ago in a PetSmart.
So how long from when you first encountered the greyhound to when you actually got yours?
Goodness, that had to probably have been 15 years maybe about.
So you had it in your mind, I like this kind of dog, but just not the right time in your life to have that kind of animal.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. Even though I was married at the time, I just didn't want to do that. Yeah. So timing was good. The last year of my active duty service was when I adopted my first gray.
So tell us a little bit about that journey of looking for and finding your dog.
My goodness, yes. That was quite a journey. It was a fun process though. When I had made the decision that I was going to adopt a greyhound, I had to do some research because greyhounds, coming from a racing background, I found out that when they're done racing or if there's something wrong with them and they can't race, they go into what's called the foster system, which sounds very strange.
Foster system.
I know, the fostering system. I'm like, oh my goodness, there's okay. And so there are so many loving families out there that take in a lot of greyhounds that get retired out of, or perhaps just aren't healthy enough to race.
Mm-hmm.
And they get surrendered basically to these foster families. And a lot of times they don't know why they're getting them. They just know they're getting them. So I was stationed in Louisiana at the time. And I was like, okay, well, let me make an informed decision. So I downloaded an ebook on adopting a greyhound.
There you go. Greyhound 101.
It really, I think that was actually the name of it.
There you go.
And I was like, okay, all things greyhound, this is the book for me. And so, because it told you about, integrating them with cats, and it told you about their history, how they were bred to race, some of the not so good things that happened to them in the industry. But there are some loving people in the industry as well. And so it was a good book because it also told you that yes, they run like the fastest dog in the world, actually land animal. I think they're next to the cheetah as far as how fast they run. But that burst of energy is only for the duration of a race. Other than that, they are called the 45-mile-an-hour couch potato. And they live up to that. They live up to that. So it was good to have all that information, and to also, I wanted to make sure that my home and my yard was big enough, because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, do I need an acre or two just of land for this dog to run? It's like, no, you can have a small yard. They're just gonna do their little zimmies. I'm like, okay. So I read through this book. I got a lot of really good information from it. And then I started to do the online research at that time to find, okay, where do I get a greyhound? Like I said, I was in Louisiana at the time. I was up at Barksdale, which is Shreveport, Louisiana. And it was actually, I found a foster family in, oh my goodness, Baton Rouge. And so I think it was like a 3-hour, 4-hour drive, I think it was, to go there. But before that, though, she had on the website, or they had on the website, all the dogs for adoption. There was a lot of them, and a lot they can't adopt out because they just can't assimilate to anybody else. They can't assimilate, and so they stay just with the foster families. So Brody was on the list. And the picture of her, I felt so bad. It did not do her justice. So I'm glad she was a dog and she had no idea. But for some reason, I was just gravitated towards this dog. Yeah. And I was like, I have to have Brody. I just have to have Brody. That was her racing name.
Was it?
It was her racing name. And I was like, I have to have this dog. And so I reached out to the lady via email, said I would like to talk about adopting Brody. And she was like, okay. Well, I had found out in our email conversations that Brody had been attacked by another dog. And so she was going through a lot of healing process. She had been in the foster care, out of the foster care, brought back in, not because of things that she had done, but because of people. Yeah. And so I just told the lady, no, I'm planning on keeping her forever. She's my dog. This is my dog. And she's like, well, let's plan on you coming down and meet her and see what you guys think of each other. Greyhound's got to tell you if they like you too. And I was like, okay, sounds great. So July 4th, many years ago, I meant to pull up the exact date, but July 4th, quite a few years ago, she was 15 when she passed. So it's been over I don't know how many years. It's been a lot of years, but it was a July 4th weekend. So in the military, we have long weekends. So I packed up my bag, I made a hotel reservation, and I headed down the night before. And I was so excited to meet Brody. I stayed overnight in a hotel, went to a restaurant, just to go meet this dog and figure out if I'm going to bring her home. I got there, and the lady was so lovely. A very nice foster family that Brody was with. Her and her husband had actually built their house on all of this land so they could specifically foster greyhounds, whippets, and Italian greyhounds. Brody was actually smaller. A lot of people think she's a whippet, but she was actually a greyhound. I was impressed that this lady and her husband did all this for the greyhounds, but they had over 20 foster greyhounds, whippets, and Italian greys. So there was not a lot of affection to go around. Yeah. They did what they could, though. Gave him a good home and stuff like that. And so I met Brody. I still have the picture. Brody met her, and I was like, I had no question. I just told the lady I'm taking her home. She's like, okay, great. Yeah. Gave her my money, got everything for her, loaded her up in my Honda CRV that I had at the time. And she was 45 pounds when I brought her home. So when I was talking to the foster mom, she had said, I almost told you no to adopting Brody because of what she's been through, her in and out, her attack and stuff like that. And she goes, but there was just something in your email and something that you had said that I don't know what to this day, but apparently something I said and did, made her feel comfortable with with me having her. And so that to me was really, really sweet that she was willing to release her. But she was 45 pounds. For her size, she probably should have had another 10 pounds on her.
Yeah.
You know, so I got her home. And on the website too, they let you know that they've integrated the dogs with cats. And so they had cats. And so I knew she had a cat tolerance.
That's good. You know, and that's something you probably don't find too often out there in some of these rescues where they are able to integrate animals before, you know, to know a lot of it. You just hear, well, I don't know. I don't know, maybe. But I don't know because they don't have the ability to do that. So that's kind of a unique situation too.
Yeah, that was nice when I pulled up her little profile. Cat tolerant. Cat tolerant. Cat tolerant. I was like, that's all it is. Enough said. Now, I don't know if the cats are going to be tolerant of the dog. Right. That's a whole other issue. But I was like, well, Brody's the bigger one. So hopefully it's like, let's see how this works out. Because at the time I had 3 cats. And needless to say, when I brought Brody home, there was some hissing. There was a lot of hiding. There was sneaking up on her. But she did such a great job. She was such a good dog. She really was. And so that was great when I brought her home. And it's kind of, I chuckle, but my heart kind of feels bad too, because I bought the crate from the lady too, which is a huge crate for these dogs. Cause you know, greyhounds and have a little crate. And I set it up in my bedroom. Cause I was like, I want to be near me, you know? So I put up the crate and put a bed in there for her, made it nice. And I walked her into that bedroom, and I'll tell you, she took one look at that crate. She ran out, hopped on the couch, and I said, I'm folding up this crate and it's never coming out again. And that's exactly what happened. That crate ended up in the garage until I moved out of that house several years later, or a couple of years later. Yeah. I didn't want her in that crate. I was like, nope, not doing that. You know, when they're in racing, they stack the crates for them. And so the females, I believe, are on the top. So they have to jump all the way up to the upper crate and do that. And, you know, you just don't know how long of their lives are spent just crated up, you know? Yeah. Or, you know what? And crating has its place, you know, because some dogs, if they're puppies and they grow up and that's a safe place for them, that's completely different. But in that, for her, it was not a safe place. Yeah. It was a place that brought fear and anxiety, and it just wasn't good. So she saw me take it out, and I think she probably went, whoo, it's gone. Yeah. Said, okay, we dodged that. We dodged that bullet. All right, I got the couch. And let me tell you, she got the couch, all right. Yeah. It's a good thing I've always had sectionals, because she's always had the one side. One side's Brody side. One side is Brody Bean's side, yeah. So, yeah. But she's had a bajillion beds throughout the house. And it actually, the funny thing is once she got acclimated with the cats and the cats got acclimated with her, it'd be kind of funny because the cat would lay on her bed. And she was like, I'm not even going there. Yeah, right. I'm not even going to try to get that little thing off the bed. I'm just going to find another bed and go lay down. And so the cats would win the battle, so to speak. That is the same story with my cats and my dog. Of course, he is a crate boy. He grew up in a crate. He loves it, but he has his little bed. And when they get on his bed, he barks. He's like, excuse me, do you see this? And I'm like, you're in your crate. You're not even using your bed. You can share. And it's like, no, that's not how this works. And it is funny. It's like the cats look over at him like, oh, they have such unique little personalities, and they know their space and they know what they like. And the cats are just mean sometimes through love and through food. And I got 10 pounds on her, so she ended up being about 55 pounds most of her life, between 52, 55. That was such a good, healthy weight for her. She just did so good. Now, after you brought her home and, you know, there's this acclimation period and you start to feel like maybe she's comfortable with you now and the cats, did you notice a personality change from the dog that you brought home to the dog that you spent the rest of those years with? Was it, because I know whenever I had Acorn and I brought Acorn, my cat, home,
I brought home a totally different cat that I have now 3 years later. What was that like?
They really do change. Because then she realizes I'm getting all the affection. This is all about me now.
Yeah.
And no more about having to share or possibly be ignored or whatever the case may be. It was about her. And so there were a lot of times sitting there on my chair reading or just doing stuff. And next thing I know, like she's right here at me, staring at me like, what are you doing? Are we going to do something? Are we going out? What are we doing? And so a lot of those love stares, I would call her, just sit there and stare at you with those big eyeballs. And I'm like, oh my goodness, okay. And Brody was the one, if I said, oh, you're ready to go for a walk? And I would just have to, or I would, this is so funny, but I would go, are you busy? And as soon as she knew that are you busy was tied in with a walk, I would just have to go, are you busy? And she would pop up and she would be like doing little zoomies and she would wear herself out. So by the time we got on the walk, she would go like maybe half a mile and be tired. And you just wore yourself out. What are you doing? So she was so goofy. But yeah, I did notice a huge personality change over time, acclimation. And then even with the cats, the cats just kind of like, she's here now. She's not going anywhere. The lady's not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. So
We're all stuck here together.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yes, I guess we have to stay here. And so, yeah, it became a little more, just kind of uniform and stuff like that. But there was never, they never cuddled with her really. One of my cats, I do have a couple of rare photos where I think they were kind of cuddled together, sort of in a way. But yeah, they never had that type of relationship together. But I know Brody felt loved and she felt cared for. And that was what mattered. I'm Teena Keevil, and I'm the founder of Faithful Administration Solutions. And at Faithful Administration Solutions, we are here to assist small business owners, consultants, and coaches with all their administrative tasks. Anything from invoicing to tracking expenses to workflows. I am here to help you to get organized so that you can focus on your clients and the work that you need to be doing. If you're interested in how I can help you, please reach out to me at hello@faithfuladminsolutions.com, and I'd be happy to answer your questions about how I can assist you. Thank you.
So you've introduced us to Brody and how you got Brody and bringing her home. How was it different? When did you know you wanted to maybe bring in another dog?
Oh goodness, I don't even know. I think I was up here about a year, and I was like, you know what? I'm settled in. I have this house. I have a nice yard, big backyard. To have another dog would be kind of fun.
That's how it starts.
It always starts out. So again, I just started to do the greyhound foster care research and found out that there was fostering. Oh, I think they were out of Plano, but they did a group foster meet in McKinney, I believe it was. And so I drove down when they had one of those meet and greets, and I did not pre-select dog online. Right. So I was like, well, I'm just going to go down, see what it's like. I think I took Brody with me, if I remember correctly. It's been quite a few years. But I think I took the bean with me so that she could see, who was there and who did she like. We went down there and she gravitated towards an 80-pound female blonde greyhound. And I'm like looking at her going, Bean, what are you doing? And she really liked this female. And the dog's name was Bea. And apparently she was surrendered to foster care without any kind of idea what was wrong with her. So she never raced. Brody had raced.
But they were both purebred greyhounds.
Yes.
But Izzy just didn't quite make the cut for racing, or
Yes.
she just never raced.
I think personally, they just surrender them and never tell the foster families why. I think she had health things going on. When I would take her out for walks when it was hot, I noticed some things. So I think she may have had some heart stuff or something going on. But they don't tell you that. We went down to that meet and greet and Brody picked her sister. And so I told the lady, I was like, well, apparently this is the one. And so we filled out all the paperwork at that time. And let me backtrack for a second too. The one thing that I do like about greyhound adoptions is they actually come out to your home and they do like a home visit.
Oh, really?
And
That's
they
awesome.
make sure that you have accommodations for a greyhound. Yeah. And so they did that with Brody when I was in Louisiana, and then they did that with Izzy when I was here. Boy, I wish and they give recommendations of stuff, but they could also deny you. It is in the paperwork. They can deny you if they come out to do a home visit. You don't get this dog. And I'm like, wow, I get it. Yeah. And so I was cleaning the house prior to inspection. Them so funny. And it's like, cats, be on your best behavior, please.
Yeah, right. Had the insight that Brody was tolerant of cats. What about Izzy?
Yes, but that was a conversation that I had with the lady as well. Wow. And she had a cat as well. And she was like, Izzy's really, really good with her. And so I was like, okay, all right, okay. I looked at Brody and I said, well, meet your sister because I'm going to come back down and get her one of these days. And so I think it was a few weeks or so between meeting her, filling out the paperwork, determining the best time, because this lady lived, I think, a little bit further away in Texas, but she came to the McKinney meet and greet.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we set up a time and a date and everything like that to meet. And so once again, I was on a road trip to get a greyhound. Not as far this time. I didn't have to go 3 hours. It was definitely closer. And so I brought B home, and I'd always wanted the name Izzy.
Really?
I always wanted the name Izzy. And I was like, B. Izzy B. Izzy B. There we go. I was like, I get it, Izzy, and she gets to keep her former name. I don't know if that's good or bad. Sometimes, you kind of have to assess the situation. Brody didn't seem like she was stressed over her name. I know you shared with us, the story with Acorn.
Yeah, when I brought her home, her name was Ava. And if you said her name, she would visibly get upset. And the vet told me, you can change her name. Don't feel like you have to keep this name. And in fact, it might be easier. She's going into a fresh start. She's got all these memories attached to the usage of her, her dead name.
Yeah. Yes.
And I remember after I changed it to Acorn, because I wanted to keep the A part, I had got a call from the vet. She heard the vet on the phone use Ava, and she was not happy. And I was like, that's when I knew I made the right decision. And it's tough because you never know. I mean, most of my pets that I've brought home, I have changed their names. But I've also had pets where I kept their name, and I don't know. Sometimes you have that feeling like you should keep their name or you should change it. And so it is kind of neat that you had a little bit two different experiences there. You experienced a little bit of both.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brody just never had a bad reaction. I think it would have been like you. Had she had like this whoa reaction, I would have really been like, what just happened here? and changed it. And then for B, she seemed okay with it, but I really wanted Izzy. So a majority of the time it was Izzy, or I'd call her BB. The dog's got all kinds of names,
Yeah, they end up with 20 nicknames anyway.
They do. They do. But when she was in trouble, it was always Izzy. Again, got to see that she was cat tolerant, so that was a good thing. With talking to who was fostering her, and brought her home.
Pets were harmed in the making of this.
Yes.
The cats that were stepped on by greyhounds.
Yes. I know. It's a sad thing. It was and actually I brought home a kitty cat that was a little whiter than I should have brought home a kitty cat that was white. Because greyhounds learn to chase white things for racing.
Right, gotcha.
And Annabelle had a little run-in with Brody one time. So needless to say, yeah, I squashed that pretty quick. But you have to, these are things that I didn't think about with a greyhound until after the fact. So if you've known that they've been bred to race and that they are coming out of a foster and out of a racing environment, that is something to keep in mind. That don't have white cats because they learn to chase white napkins or white fake rabbits. And so it's that enough of that color. I don't know how much color dogs actually see, but that shade or whatever it may be, they're gonna see that white. And might not be so great for your cat. Or little dog if you get it.
And that's something I would have never even thought of. Even though I have, even Moon, he does fast cat and he chases the lure. It's a white bat, and he's a very high prey drive animal. So he goes after things that look similar to it. Makes a lot of sense, but not something that would have crossed my mind when, if I had a dog and getting a cat, I would just not think about getting a white cat. And it just getting that instinct going.
Yes, it does. I was like, ah! Yeah, it was a very interesting moment. It was a curtain, a windowsill, a dog, and a cat that freaked out. So we'll just leave it at that. Similarities, I think, was the sleeping. They love to sleep. They snore quite loud. And they toot a lot. And it's not nice. And so in those regards, they're a lot the same. But I think personality wise, Brody was always the one that wanted to go walking. And like I said, all I would say is, oh, are you ready? And are you busy? And she would just get all fired up and excited. And Izzy would react because Brody reacted. If Brody was outside and I said to Izzy, you want to go for a walk? She would stare at me. Like, I don't know what you're talking about, but sure, whatever. Right. And but as soon as I brought Brody in, it would be like, hey, are you busy? And then she would get fired up. That would fire up Izzy. So yeah, it was interesting, that little dynamic with them. So Izzy would feed off of Brody's energy in that way. But there was one incident with the girls that was not good. And so I'm very glad that we got over that. But about 2 or 3 months into having them together, I was inside the house doing something. The girls were outside together and I heard a dog fight. And I was like, what is going, because you're not registering at the time.
Right.
That something's going on with your dog. Yes. And so I'm like, is it out front? And I think I might have looked out front. And then all of a sudden I looked out back and I'm like, it is my dogs. And I was shocked. And when I look back on it now, I probably did something I should never have done. But Brody had her collar on. And I went and ripped Brody up out of the dog fight. And hindsight 2020, luckily, and I think just because I saw the collar on her, I was like, boom. Yeah. And again, Brody is the smaller one. I'll tell you, she tore her sister up. Oof. Yeah, she did some damage to Izzy, and that was, it was so sad. They were just both bleeding. It was devastating, I think, to both of us, or all three of us, I should say. And so at that moment, I separated the girls. I put one in one room and I left one in the living room and tended to Izzy and I think I had to take Izzy to the emergency room because she actually needed stitches. That's how bad ripped her mouth open. I was like, wow, that happened fast. Had no clue about it. And keeping in mind, Izzy was 2 when I adopted her, and at this point, Brody probably was closer, like in her 6, 7. She was older, very set in her ways, I guess you could probably say. And Izzy liked to be up in Brody's face. So like, oh, look at me. Yep. And so I think that whole playfulness Brody didn't understand coming from such a big foster. Izzy came from one person. I don't know if she went to a bigger foster care at first, but the lady that had her that I adopted her from was the only one in the cat.
Yeah.
So Izzy came from just a single person. I think her excitement to be with Brody Bean at that moment in time, it's a little bit much for Brody. And so she just went postal on her. So anyways, I ended up taking Brody to the vet as well and told the vet what had happened. And she goes, okay, look, there's a possibility that they may never assimilate again. That this might be an end for them. And so I came home and I talked to the girls. We're gonna love each other. And Izzy's staying. She's not going anywhere. Beanie, you're gonna have to figure it out. And so for a long time, though, I did not leave him outside unattended. I was with them all the time, attended. It was completely out of nowhere. Even when I thought back to it, I was just like, was there something? What triggered this? You know, like what did that? There was no food involved. That was the first thing I thought. I was like, was there food involved? No, they were outside. There was no food outside. There's no water outside. They don't play with toys. They're greyhounds are not really ones for fetch, you know?
Right.
So there was nothing common for them to get in a fight over. So it really seemed out of character for them.
So that never happened again.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah, never happened again. I think I probably monitored them for a month or two. I went outside with them all the time and keeping them in check and everything like that.
Right.
But after that, there was never any sign. I think Brody established her dominance and Izzy just knew, but it was different.
Yeah.
It was different. Brody's journey was sad, you know, but 15 years, her and I, or actually, she was 15 when she passed away, and we had been together since she was 4. Yeah. So we had a great run together. So getting her out of that environment and into a loving home, I mean, what more could you do? You know, and Izzy being 2 when she was surrendered, and she passed away at 10. And so I had 8 years with her. And so I had long runs with them. Izzy had other kinds of challenges with her health, which just made her a different kind of a dog. Um, uh, and so I just was like, I just have to love her through these challenges, you know, and take the best care of her.
So
that
her
I
health
can.
challenges
And,
were mainly
but
medical
sometimes
or
I made it.
behavioral.
So I honestly think that she had some brain things going on um with how she was kind of processing information and stuff like that. She would be laying on the couch and then she would just jump up out of complete terror.
Oh, really?
And her eyes would just be glassed over. Um or she would be fine. I'd let her outside into the backyard, and then all of a sudden her eyes were glassed over and she would just go lay in a spot in the backyard and I couldn't get her back in.
Oh, wow.
Or she would be in the Jeep after we go to the vet and I can't get her back out. You know, and you experienced some stuff with me that you saw. And so she had some challenges going on with that. And even the vet, we would have some talks after with regards to when she'd have to go in for a dental procedure or something like that. And I would just say she was a hard dog. Not because of behavior, but I think there was something going on. She just wasn't quite processing things. But when the light was on, and she was such a good dog. She was such a good girl. And, you know, she would be so goofy. She was the dog that would be in the puddle.
Yeah.
So,
okay, there you go.
you know, Brody's like, oh, I don't think so. Izzy's like, let me at it. So I have to share this one story. It was not good for Brody, but after I realized she was okay, it was kind of funny. But Izzy was doing her zoomies in the backyard, and Brody was just standing there. Izzy did not pay attention and knocked Brody right over. Brody just kind of fell like a domino. And I was like, Izzy! And Brody popped right back up and she came over to me and
Did
she
you
gave
see
me
that,
the look.
Mom?
Yes,
I
I really
see
hate
that.
her. Did you see that? And I hate her.
Yeah.
So I got multiple eyes and Izzy kept running. She was very proud of herself, I guess. She came and checked on Brody later.
We will play our game. Okay, so when you go to the AKC website, I don't know if you ever have, if you've gone to look at greyhounds. Okay, perfect. So if you go look at any breed on the AKC website, it has a little scoring sheet on about the breed for breed traits and characteristics.
Oh boy.
So it rates it from 1 to 5, 1 being the least like, or 5 being the most like. And it has different categories. So you have family life, physical, social, and personality. And so I thought you could go through and rate for each of the girls, one on each of these categories.
Okay.
Which some of them are like affectionate with family, good with young children. Once you do that, we'll compare it to what the AKC website
Oh, goodness. Okay.
Maybe that's the other thing I forgot to ask. What were their favorite treats?
Oh my goodness. Brody, carrots.
Yeah.
Hands down. You would open the fridge and that dog, I don't care where she was in the house. Now she kind of lost her hearing and she got older, but if she could hear,
if she
was hearing and she heard that fridge open, she was there. Izzy was a peanut butter and banana cookies. Yeah, she loved those little dog treats. Okay, let's see how these girls.
See how you did.
Okay.
Okay. So what? So the AKC website says that greyhounds score a 4 out of 5 for affectionate with family.
Oh.
So you put them at a 5 out of 5, so pretty close. Yeah. And then good with young children coming in at a 3 out of 5. So you put Brody at a 5 out of 5 and Izzy at a 0.
That's not even
good with other dogs. They come in at a 4 out of 5 as well. And you've got Brody at a 5 out of 5. Izzy at a 2.
That was not a good day for Izzy.
Shedding 5 out of 5. And then coat grooming frequency 1 out of 5. But you said they love it. So you gave 5 out of 5, right?
Yes.
And drooling level coming in at a 1 out of 5. And so you got that one right on.
Yay.
Openness to strangers, you gave Brody a 5 out of 5 and Izzy a 4. Coming in at 3 out of 5 from the AKC website.
I can see that.
Playfulness level comes in at a 3 out of 5 as well. And so you've got that for both of them. Watchdog protectiveness nature comes in at a 3 out of 5 again. So we've got Izzy at a 0 and a 0 for Brody. And adaptability level 4 out of 5. So you've got Izzy at 2 and Brody out of 5. And then a trainability 3 out of 5. And you've got them at a 4, Brody at a 4 and Izzy at a 2. Energy level is a 4 out of 5. And you've got them at a 3. It's pretty close there. Barking level 3 out of 5. And you've got Brody at a 3 and Izzy at a 1. And then mental stimulation needs comes in at a 3. Oh, and you've got them at a 1.
I'm surprised that they actually come in at a 3.
So, they are not too far off from, what their breed is characterized and their traits. But I thought that was interesting.
That is so
they
cute.
are quite different if you were to, describe them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That actually is really cute too. To see how they even differed when I think about that. You good girls. I would recommend a greyhound to anybody that wanted to adopt one.
Beginner level dog, intermediate level dog. Is this, or I guess you could rate them that way. If this is a first time dog owner, is a greyhound your dog?
Wow, that's a really good question. I think you could start with a greyhound as a first-time dog. Because really, when I was growing up, I had dogs. That was always my parents' dogs,
Mm-hmm.
So Brody really was my first
Real
grown up dog,
Yeah.
And so I think coming in with a little bit of research, like I said before, reading up about the breed a little bit.
And so you walked them through life. You got to have them pretty much until their last days.
Mhm.
When that came, was it a decision that was made for you? Was it a decision that you made?
Brody definitely was not a decision that I was ready to make. I think I always kind of knew in the back of my head 'cause she was 15. So I knew it was getting close, but she had been in the living room and had an incident where she just keeled over, um, and got her to the clinic as quickly as possible. Um, but on the way there, even though she came back and was conscious, I had made the decision that it was time. Wasn't going to put her through anything because that obviously to me was something happened with her heart that did that to her, and so I had to make that decision. Um, and Izzy as well. It was a very challenging decision. Izzy aged a lot in 6 months after Brody passed, and the challenges had become a lot with Izzy. We could no longer do visits to the vet to do anything. She would not come out of the vehicle anymore. So that was a very hard day. When you have to make that decision for an animal, um, it's hard. But on the flip side of it, if I had to do it again, I would do it again because she's in heaven. I know they're both in heaven, and I know they're both healthy and they're healed and running around being crazy. And Izzy loved her flowers, so she's got a, all of heaven worth of flowers. So it is hard when they get to the end of life and you've had them for so long. But sometimes you have to put yourself aside and realize that they are hurting either physically or mentally. With Izzy's case, if anything had happened to her and I had to get her to the emergency room, it wouldn't happen.
Mhm.
Um, and so I had to make that choice when I did because I don't know what the next step would have been. Um, so it's hard, but you have to make the best decision for your pet. Sometimes that means just letting them go, even though you're not ready to.
Yeah.
Um, but it was hard for Izzy, I think, after she lost Brody. Yeah, she changed too, they change when they come together and then when they're separated. Um, it's just different.
Mhm.
It's just different. So the house is really quiet. The cats are different now. It is interesting because then the dynamic for me and the cats shifts
Yeah.
because they're not worried about being stepped on or accidentally kicked, and they're like, oh, hey. So, but yeah, it's, you just go through the grieving process like you would and yeah, get to the other side and you just know they're okay.
Mhm. Mhm. So would you say that they both shared, obviously a huge space in your life? Was Brody more your heart dog out of the two because you spent more years together?
Mm. I you know, I know, and it's sad to say you kinda had a favorite.
Yeah.
Uh,
it's wasn't gonna put it that way. Okay.
yes, I know, I like the way you put it, "You're hurt." It's like but you do it's kind of funny because Brody was just different in her personality, how she was, a little bit more responsive and things like that, but, when you look back at Izzy and realize that, wait, that was a lot of mental stuff that was happening to her, then it puts it on a different level. But I think having the first dog was just like your heart always goes to the first. But my heart was for Izzy too. But I think Brody was harder. But Izzy was, they were both hard. It
Yeah.
was just a both were hard
Yeah.
because letting go of Izzy, knowing with all that she went through, and I just had to love her through it all. It was a different decision that I had to make at a different time. But I think Brody maybe had a little bit more of my heart. Yeah. That first love.
I do recall that you had a pretty good relationship with your veterinarian, or towards the last few years, you had found a veterinarian that you really connected with that was there for you through that. What was that like?
It was good. It's a animal hospital in Denison. It's a very nice vet.
I can't remember her name either for the life of me.
When it was time for Brody, she was actually with us. And
Wow.
when your vet cries with you, your dog had an impact, and you know that there is a true love for the animals when they are in sorrow with you. And she was supposed to have helped me with Izzy. Unfortunately, she did get called away, so we had another vet, which was very nice. But it they are very good staff there.
Yeah.
And when I went back later, with just Izzy at one point, they're always like, "We're so sorry," and they knew because greyhounds are not popular here in Grayson County.
Right.
So at that clinic, I think there might have been another greyhound that came down from Oklahoma, but we were like the most consistent.
Yeah.
So Brody and Izzy were the most consistent there. But yeah, they always took good care of the girls, and they're still taking good care of the cats now.
Well, thank you for sharing your time with us and a little bit about your story. I mean, we could probably do a whole other episode just talking about girls.
I know. Absolutely.